What's going on, everybody? Today, I'm breaking down 10 veterans who may or may not be washed. You can call them busts, you can call them fades, whatever provocative term you want. But these are 10 guys who I have constantly either been seeing or bringing up myself, speculating that, hey, maybe they could do something good in the year 2026. But almost immediately, I got an angry mob coming back at me saying, no, Ian, you are dumb. They are, in fact, washed. So I want to go through and give a scale for each of these guys if I do believe them to actually be washed. And hey, also go through the idea where if they are washed, who should be benefiting. And with that, let's get after it with washed candidate number one, Saints running back Alvin Kamara, guys. Turned 31 in July. Obviously, didn't have a great 2025. Okay, career worst marks in yards per carry at 3.6 and 5.6 yards per catch. It was not good. That said, offensive environment wasn't great either. Okay, we rightfully talk about Ashton, Jeanty, Quinshon, Judkins, guys who average, again, a very similar yards per carry, working behind horrible offensive lines. All right. 31st and 32nd, I believe the Raiders and Browns were in running back yards before contact per carry. Kamara's Saints offensive line ranked 28th. We didn't get to see him against that soft schedule and with Tyler Shuck balling out under center. We actually did for one full game, and he had 115 total yards. It was 2 games total. We had that wonky Rams game where I think the Saints ran like 41 total offensive plays. If you throw that one out, his one true full game with Tyler Shuck under center, 115 total yards. He is only 1 year removed from working as a PPR RB5 on a per game basis. Like that happened in 2024, guys. So I get it though. Travis Etienne, Achan, every freaking time with this dude. $52 million, all right, to Etienne. He is going to be the lead running back, but by how much? Is it going to be 50-50? I don't exactly think so. Training camp reports have kind of indicated it's more so Kamara as a pass down specialist, which, hey, maybe brings out the best in him again. It would make sense that someone who is, again, 31 years old, maybe a little bit of a lighter roles, they would provide a little bit more boom than what we saw, being force-fed the football last season. It's a tough one, though. A couple weeks ago, I told you guys that Travis Etienne was one of the guys I was fading. That was at that kind of borderline round 3 price tag. Now that has become, everyone's attention that Kamara is clearly back and involved. I got Etienne early round 5 and a couple drafts I've been in recently, guys. Round 5 Etienne, I am very much in on because I do think with the $52 million contract, it should be 60-40. Worst case, maybe like 55-45, but I would be surprised if it actually does get close to 50-50. So obviously make Kamara a nice click weeks and months ago when there was still some uncertainty he was going to be out there. He did accept a roughly, $5.5 million pay cut for a reason. The last point, this Saints offense, man, they move with a ton of pace. Shout out to Pat Thurman over at Established to Run. He's been kind of the pace leader in our fantasy community for a long time. Looking at the Saints, guys, first in pace overall last year, 8th in plays when you're kind of adjusting for overtime, and 2nd in no huddle percentage. So if there was going to be sort of a running back room where we could live with maybe a closer split than expected, it would be one that's running so many plays in the first place that we're able to see that guy overcome it. So for me, I'm going 7 out of 10 on the wash scale for Alvin Kamara. I really do believe his, best days are in the rearview mirror at this point. Could he still surprise a little bit, particularly in the receiving game where he's been so fantastic over the years? Yes. But honestly, again, just given how cheap now Etienne has gotten, he's now going, again, this round 5 range of more drafts than not. I am basically kind of pushing back now on the idea that Kamara is going to be that big of a problem because, again, if Kamara is as washed, that's kind of the other point I wanted to make here. If Kamara is as washed as everyone says, we're going to look at that round 5 price tag for Etienne and say, my God, why was this dude not going at the round 2-3 turn alongside guys like Javonte Williams and even the Jeremiah Loves and Breece Halls of the world? So I do think Kamara, certainly 7 out of 10 wash scale, not someone who I think you should be going out of your way to necessarily get at the end of drafts. In the right build, hero RB, you just kind of need to try to aggregate a bunch of guys to get that RB2 spot figured out. I do think we could look up and see Kamara getting 10 to 12, touches per game. Many in the pass game, obviously could be more helpful for PPR purposes, but Saints pace, Etienne contract, and just the reality that, again, Kamara had to take the pay cut to even come back. I do think this is Etienne's backfield as a whole. You know what, though? It's also pretty cool. Saints backfield, Saints pace. The RotoWire subscription. All right, real quick, guys. Code Ian20 gets you 20% off if you want to head on over to RotoWire. We can be your one-stop shop for all things fantasy football this year. Live draft assistant, expert ranks, waiver wire goodness, our start sit tool. And also, if you're really feeling feisty, we actually have an all-access plan where if you want to get access to people like myself, Theo Greminger, Jagger May, all of our great, again, RotoWire NFL personalities, you can actually get us in a Discord while answering your questions at any freaking time of the day, man. So that one's a little bit more expensive, but again, we have different subscription prices for all walks of life, whether you're just trying to get some draft help before the season, in season, and again, the Big Bang All Access. So code Ian20 if you want to support the show, if you want to just make yourself a little bit smarter, get those bragging rights over your friends and family and fantasy this year, code Ian20 over at RotoWire. Thank you. Wash candidate number 2, Mr. Mike Evans for the San Francisco 49ers. This man is turning 33 in August, and man, ranked among the league's bottom 10 wide receivers last year in yards per target, passer rating when targeted, and catch rate alike. Obviously was injured a lot, and as Father Time tends to do to these sorts of players, shouldn't necessarily be expecting the injury gods to chill the hell out here in 2026 or beyond. Why he might not be washed, though, you do look at some of the target stats and also the quality of those targets, and you still see someone capable of playing at a pretty high level, okay? 8th in targets per route run last season. And when he was going out there, man, at least if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt of saying, hey, you know, maybe last year was a little bit worse, but he was playing through some injuries. Like, let's include 2024 in this as well. Fantasy points, average separation score, man, they do have Mike Evans number 1 among their qualified wide receivers. And again, looking at their separation score when they are lined up out wide. So Mike Evans, Zay Flowers, Davante Smith, Tyreek Hill, Jackson Smith, and Najigba in that top 5. Very good company to be around there for Mr. Mike Evans. I mentioned before kind of the quality of the targets, and this would be the other part that, again, gets me more encouraged about Mike Evans, despite some of the fall off in 2025. Last year, just a 61% catchable target rate for Mike Evans. His new quarterback, Brock Purdy, when he was targeting wide receivers, and I even excluded screens here, 72.4% catchable ball rate from Brock Purdy last season. That's a plus 11% difference. Look, I'm not trying to slander Baker. I know he was playing through his own injuries here, but the difference between catchable ball rate from Baker to Purdy, it's larger than J.J. McCarthy to Kyler Murray, guys. It's larger than, you know, what DJ Moore is dealing with, a Caleb going to Josh Allen. It's larger than A.J. Brown going from Hurts to Drake May. It is the largest one I could find among the marquee wide receivers that are changing quarterbacks. So with Mike Evans, I do think when you also consider the fact that Ricky Pearsall is out of the picture, very tough to just kind of figure out a way where Evans is going to meaningfully bust if he can just stay healthy. So that is the caveat here. And that's why Mike Evans and Davante Adams, who, spoiler, we are going to be talking about here in a minute, that is why these guys are going, I think, more so closer to that wide receiver 2 borderline. But man, we're going to be drafting Evans as this low end, again, borderline wide receiver 2 type. But the second week 1 comes around, we are going to be ranking him far, far higher out here. So if he is washed, though, let's say Father Time comes, it's not effective, he gets injured, yada, yada, yada. It's tough, man, because if you've seen this passing game just really condense around certain players, like last year, Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle were doing their thing with the wide receiver room so banged up. Juwan Jennings was all right. Pearsall, when he was healthy, did a couple good things. But Dazon Stribling, best wide receiver in training camp, per some of the beat reporters out there, he would probably be the biggest beneficiary if we again see Evans getting banged up over there as well. Maybe even Deebo Samuel. I would think, because McCaffrey and Kittle are going to get theirs regardless. If Evans sinks, I think Stribling would be the guy we really want to be in on. I'll give Deebo a little bit of love because in 2024, pre and post pneumonia splits, like, this dude was hospitalized for a couple days out there during the middle of the season. He was much, much better before. And even last year in Washington, first 6 weeks or so of the year, did some really good things. And then he got a heel injury and then he wasn't playing as well. I get it though. Older players are going to get injured more often. It's not ideal, but we can't just assume that they're going to be healthy the whole year. I just don't think Deebo would be asked to do anything near what Evans is. So Stribling, I know they kind of tried to bring him in, I think, more so as the Juwan Jennings replacement because they thought they were going to have Pearsall, and they still do have Mike Evans out there, but maybe in this scenario they don't. Stribling would be the guy. Talked about some draft strategy stuff. Usually in the later rounds, I like targeting handcuff running backs over wide receivers, but Stribling would be the kind of exception to that rule where you're saying, all right, he's in an offense we love. He got 33rd overall pick or whatever it was, draft capital. So he's clearly a talented guy. Shanahan, the team seemed to love him, and he is one more injury away to one Mike Evans, who, let's face it, a little bit injury prone, a little bit older, from skyrocketing up the ranks. So Stribling, I do believe, would be the biggest beneficiary if Evans gets injured. That said, I'm going with a 4 out of 10 on the wash scale right here. I don't think Evans is going to get back to 1,500-yard heights or anything like that, but I really do think he can do his very best 2025 Davante Adams impression, guys, because as much as George Kittle is great in the red zone and great at everything, he's George Kittle, I don't see Stribling or Deebo Samuel being that guy getting the one-on-one fades from Brock Purdy in the red zone. It really does seem like Mike Evans, even if he's washed from a yardage standpoint, has such nice double-digit touchdown upside and a Purdy Shanahan passing game that's just continuously been awesome. So going through this, I actually went ahead and updated my ranks over at RotoWire.com. Evans is now my wide receiver 20, and that still honestly feels low. Again, prime candidate to be ranked far, far higher in September than what we're doing right now in August. Wash candidate number 3, it's going to be Davante Adams. And, why is he potentially washed? Well, he turns 34 in December. And when you also look at last year, 14 touchdowns, incredible stuff. But as any Adams or Kyron or Corum or Puka fantasy manager knows, a lot of those were coming from inside the 5-yard line. I think it was 7 inside the 5-yard line, and like nobody else had more than 4. I think Dallas Goedert was a guy with 4. So very much of, again, the fantasy-friendly goal line variety. But on the other hand, the volume was there. 28 end zone targets for Davante Adams last season, guys. That's the highest mark in true media history. They go back all the way to 2009. Really wasn't even close. Number 2 last year was George Pickens with 18. So Adams had 10 more end zone targets than the next closest wide receiver in 14 games. It worked, but it's not like we're looking at someone who caught, oh man, Adams caught 12 of his 15 end zone targets. Like there's no way he's going to have that. The regression case doesn't exactly line up as well as you would like it to because of just how freaking peppered he was getting. I think he caught 14 of the 28. All of his touchdowns might have been in the end zone. If it wasn't 14, it was pretty close. Again, if it was some 80% hit rate, fine. But a 50% hit rate, I get that that's still higher than league average, but we do have one of the best wide receivers of his generation. I think we can all agree on that, with the league's reigning MVP in an offense we love and an offense that didn't add any additional red zone competition to worry about. So we got the tight ends who are going to be doing their thing as well. Puka Nacua, maybe just the entire universe starts centering around him and they give him those touchdowns. Could you freaking imagine the fantasy numbers if that happens? But the issue for Adams is that last year he only averaged 56 receiving yards per game. That was his lowest mark since 2015. But can you guys remember a goal line receiver like this? I mean, it's a wild role, but they have it for the man, and nothing has changed in terms of the play caller, his quarterback, or even his target competition. I do struggle to kind of poke a meaningful hole in this situation. So I'm going a little bit higher on the wash scale than Evans, but man, I'm only going 5 out of 10 here. He's only missed more than 3 games once in his entire career. Similar to Evans, I look at it, man, it's like, other than him getting hurt, he's not going to get displaced by, Kanata Mumfield. We're not going to see Jordan Whittington come out and taking away Davante Adams snaps. They got all the tight ends. So again, trying to play like it doesn't work out for Davante Adams. Who benefits? The fantasy nerd that needs to go to therapy in me wants to say Terrence Ferguson would be the one that steps up. Probably Colby Parkinson, the guy who was already scoring all the touchdowns last year. But I do think if you wanted to try to play the game where it's like, all right, Davante isn't going to be the same guy, probably these running backs, man, more than anything. I want Terrence Ferguson to happen. I think he's a great click at the end of your drafts because you can wait, see what happens in week 1. If he has a 75% route rate, he's going to be completely skyrocketing up the weekly ranks, and you're going to feel like a genius for getting him there. And if he doesn't, you can cut him. No worries. We've seen worse. But that's not many players have that realistic range of booming up into the week 2 ranks like Terrence Ferguson does just from getting one good data point that we will, again, find a way to get here in week 1. So I would say, if anything, it would just be these inside the 5 attempts going to Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, man. Talking about all those touchdowns, we start sprinkling 3 or 4 more to each of these guys. I have not been drafting a ton of Kyron Williams. I've usually, once round 4 comes around, I start moving my attention to wide receivers. I like Colson Lovell in that range as well. But man, Kyren, even last year, Blake Corum eating into his workload, borderline RB1. I think he finished like RB11 in PPR points per game. If you give him half of Davante Adams' goal line touchdowns, man, we're right back in the top 10, even with Blake Corum not going anywhere. So Corum would also be a guy where, again, I think just later in the draft, loaded Rams defense this year, it would make sense if we see them able to lean on the run more often. And again, if Adams isn't going to be the same monster on the goal line, Kyren, Corum eating up those more. Puka, sure, fine, but he's already wide receiver 2 in some people's minds, wide receiver 1. So how much further can you push the guy? So 5 out of 10 wash scale for Davante Adams. It's just he's not being asked to be used that much downfield or to stretch, what defenses are trying to, just stretching the secondary, going deep and all that. You guys get what I'm saying? It's weird because he is going to be 34 in December, but he's in probably the most like protected sort of role that you could ever hope for an aging wide receiver. Great talent. I still think Davante Adams, where he's being priced too, guys, like usually outside the top 24, very, very much already priced into his issues because he was a top 12 wide receiver last year in fantasy. So I'm not leaving every draft with Davante Adams. I'd like Christian Watson, probably Parker Washington in that range just a little bit more. And look, I don't want my entire roster to be, the all AARC team or whatever that, old people insurance is. I do think, though, in the right build, you've already found a way to get 2 or even 3 wide receivers by the time an Evans or Davante comes up. That's a situation where I'm not completely relying on them to be my wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, but unbelievable wide receiver 3 or flex option. Wash candidate number 4, we got Christian McCaffrey, guys. He turned 30 in June. Also got to deal with the reality that he's coming off a season where he had 450 touches and also did not put his best foot forward on the ground. Just 3.9 yards per carry. That was his worst season-long mark where he played more than 3 games since his rookie season. So didn't exactly see greatness there, but was still kind of one of the best, if not the best. Actually, he was the best running back in all fantasy football. More PPR points from purely receiving than Saquon Barkley had overall last season, guys. So 8th most PPR points from receiving of any player in the entire NFL. That's what we're dealing here with CMC. So I've talked before about, again, some of the just after season effects from a big touch total. I looked at 30 running backs who have been, 350 plus touches over the course of the past decade. The average games played next season was 13.3. Median was 16. We did see the average PPR points per game drop. And I know the trendy way is not even kind of, if you want to make your bias point here and try to fade CMC, you'll just point out how like the overwhelming majority of these running backs average fewer fantasy points than they did the year before, which is true. But the average from the group is still 16.6. That's a really good mark, man. And in CMC's case, why I think he's more protected than your usual Saquon Barkley sort of running back like we saw last year. CMC's big season wasn't built on a bunch of big plays. It wasn't built on dominance on the ground because that's the other part from this, again, high volume running back category. The big drop off we see is yards per carry. And their high touch season, they went from 4.7 to the following season, just 4.1 as a group. That was already an issue for CMC. It would suck if he goes from 3.9 to 3.3 or something like that. But of all things here, man, I hope the injury gods treat CMC okay, nice. They seem to be taking out every other 49er right now within, arm's reach of that substation. I know CMC's got the tightness. They haven't told us where he's dealing with it, but tentatively expecting CMC, knock on wood, to go into week 1 at full health. We just don't see receivers or running backs with receiving upside to catch 100-plus passes, to go for 1,000 yards potentially, and to catch 8+ touchdowns. So Pearsall's already hurt. We talked about Mike Evans. I mean, if you think Mike Evans could potentially get injured, then Christian McCaffrey is probably going to F around and be the clear-cut number 1 target. And, what if George Kittle also probably could have made this list as a potential wash candidate, a little bit more of an injury ramification there. That's why I didn't include him. But a lot to like here about CMC, guys. In fact, I'm going just a 3 out of 10 on the wash scale here. I have adjusted my ranks, and I now have CMC as my 3rd player overall. So if I am going to be particularly in a half PPR draft, but honestly also PPR, just given it is CMC, I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs number 1, Bijan Robinson number 2. Switch it up if you want to. I'm so freaking tired of debating that. They're both awesome. Everyone has them number 1 or number 2. We waste so much time barking about that. I'm going Christian McCaffrey number 3. And it's nothing against Jamar Chase or Puka Nacua. If you prefer them, I'm not going to argue with you. I just really love being able to get that first round RB, guys. I think when you're playing catch up at RB in the middle rounds this year, it's just really doing you a disservice. I am more confident in my ability to match early round wide receiver production with a group of guys in the middle round than I am thinking that I can get anywhere close to Bijan, Gibbs, or CMC numbers from a bunch of round 4 through 7 running backs I have major question marks about. So receiving work, too ridiculous to ignore. Christian McCaffrey, my 3rd overall player in fantasy drafts, just a 3 out of 10 on the wash scale. Wash candidate number 5 here, Mr. Aaron Rodgers is going to be 43 years old in December. He is washed, like relative to the freaking MVP game breaker, one of the best quarterbacks of his generation that we saw not that too far ago. Obviously, you watch Rodgers these days when there's pressure, he's dumping the ball down to Jalen Warren. He's not exactly going to be out there trying to be, the sort of just off-script artist that he was earlier in his career because he's about to be 43 years old. So makes sense there. I will say, if you want to make the argument for why he's not washed, he tied Patrick Mahomes for the longest throw of last season. And honestly, Rodgers was way more impressive, guys. He got that freaking pigskin. It was against the Bengals. Hail Mary. And we know that's basically Rodgers, defining career play. How many times has he pulled that off? I looked up the air yards on PFF, and they're saying it was, I think, 61 yards. It looks 70 to me, man. Maybe they're just doing it from the line of scrimmage, which would make more sense. But he threw that thing from the 30 all the way to the freaking opposite end zone. Unfortunately, maybe not the best effort from DK Metcalf. It fell incomplete. But Mahomes was in that game against the Jaguars on Monday Night Football where he got an entire run up and still, man, only could get it from like the 20-yard line to the opposite 20-yard line. So still got a cannon. We saw flashes of it. The more washed part of Rodgers' game, I think, comes from his inability to move around now. But the thing is, that could really benefit these running backs. So here's my main case on Rodgers. I think he's washed. All right. 9 out of 10 on the wash scale. I don't think that's up for too much debate. We might be able to use this to our advantage. Everyone else we talked about, like if they're washed, it's not going to be good for the offense. And no, it wouldn't be good for Rodgers as well. I do think we need to consider the possibility that the Steelers team could really suck. But they could really suck while Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle just eat up targets, guys. I looked it up. We've had 20 quarterbacks aged 38 or older start at least 10 games over the last 10 years. I used 38 because when I used 40, it was literally only Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady, so I want to get a slightly bigger sample there. 15 of these 20 offenses ranked top 8 in RB targets, man. Rodgers himself. Steelers RBs were 2nd last year. And they were 5th in 2024, even with Garrett Wilson, even trading for Davante Adams. And I know Breece Hall is a good receiver and everything, but man, 5th and 2nd over these last 2 years, guys. 2022, he's with the Packers. They were still 11th. Brady, Roethlisberger, post elbow, he's up there. Honestly, Roethlisberger's the only guy that's kind of skewing this a little bit. Breeze, Phillip Rivers constantly feeding these guys. These geriatric quarterbacks are going to jump the ball. They're going to check the ball down because they don't want to get freaking jumped by a bunch of werewolves who are breathing down their neck every time they drop back to pass. So I'm worried about the Steelers being horrible potentially. Let's face it. The last time we saw Mike McCarthy in a prime, soon-to-be 2-time MVP, additional version of Aaron Rodgers, like it wasn't working. They had to replace McCarthy with LaFleur. Are we sure that 10 years more of Rodgers aging and McCarthy, I don't know, existing in Dallas? I don't want to put him down. He won a Super Bowl and everything, but if the 2026 Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers-led offense finishes 30th in scoring, we should not be shocked about it. So they finished 15th last year. I don't think they're going to necessarily be horrible, but certainly within the realm of imagination. If you had to pick of the Steelers finishing top 5 or bottom 5 scoring, I certainly would lean more towards bottom 5. All that said, I think the ADPs, I think it's baked in already. So Rodgers, 9 out of 10 wash scale, but it's not forcing me to move off of Warren or Rico Dowdle or Pittman or Metcalf. We're already talking about 2 RBs in RB3 territory. I think both guys have very nice handcuff upside if the other one gets injured. Both guys, as it stands right now, should be a fairly evenly split committee. I love targeting these Steelers running backs where they're going in drafts right now, especially if you're already set at wide receiver and you can't afford to add another guy to your backfield. And then Metcalf and Pittman, again, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 borderline. Metcalf has been this boomer bust wide receiver 3 really his entire career. We've always chased him up more expensive than that, chasing that, 2019, 2020 season. His second year, he was a wide receiver 10. Every other year has kind of been a volatile wide receiver 3. Now we can buy him as that. And even Michael Pittman, wide receiver 2 for pretty much his entire career, other than 2024 when he played through a literal fractured back, and then 2025 when Phillip Rivers messed up everything for him at the end. Acceptable prices for talented players looking at a lot of volume, even if we should be aware, of potential severe drop-off between Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. Wash candidate number 6, I'm going with DJ Moore, all right? He turned 29 in April, and you look at the numbers over these past 3 years, man. 2023, that was a Justin Fields year, okay? 15th among 59 wide receivers in yards per route run, wide receiver 9 in fantasy points per game. 2024 comes along. Now he's playing with Caleb Williams. 43rd out of 54 wide receivers in yards per route run, wide receiver 27 in PPR points per game. Okay. Year 2 with Caleb. Ben Johnson comes into town. 44th out of 47 qualified wide receivers in yards per route run. Also the wide receiver 44 in PPR points per game. He killed the Packers, and I know Bears fans appreciate that, because if there's one thing that Bears fans hate in this world, it is anything to do with the Packers, and I know Ben Johnson agrees with that. That's the case for him being washed. He's not 30 just yet, but he's racked up 8 seasons in the NFL, a little bit older in terms of like the mileage with him. His last 2 seasons, objectively, I featured more downs and ups. Why might he not be washed? It was a Bears offense that split it up. Loveland, Burden down the stretch, Adunze, DJ Moore, constantly spreading the ball around. All these guys finish, around 600-700 yards or so. Are we that far removed from when he went for 1,300 plus yards with Justin Fields and, Tyson Badgett, aka T-Bag? Wasn't that long ago. Now, if I try to play that game with Alvin Kamara or Jerry Jeudy, I'll get laughed out of town. For DJ Moore, it seems to be a little bit more acceptable. This one's tough for me, guys. There's a very real chance that I look so stupid for not drafting more DJ Moore. And if you guys just want to say, Ian, Josh Allen's wide receiver 1 is priced as a wide receiver 3, I get it. It's a fade for me that terrifies me. It really does. I have dreams about this shit, people. I wish I didn't, I told my buddy from college, I was like, I had the homework dream where I wake up, or I'm sleeping, obviously, and it's week 4, and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to set my fantasy teams. My buddy was like, I've never dreamed about anything with work like that. I don't treat it that seriously. And I'm like, nice. Good for you, man. Fading DJ Moore terrifies me. And could I draft him more? Yeah. But in my heart of hearts, I think Christian Watson and Parker Washington are better football players right now. And as much as being Josh Allen's number 1 wide receiver is a great idea, we've had back-to-back years of plenty of guys who could do that. Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakir, Josh Palmer. I admit DJ Moore, I think in the year 2026 is better than those guys, but it wasn't like Amari Cooper. We just instantly knew he sucked on his way to Buffalo. He had a rough first 6 weeks in Cleveland that season before he came over. There were signs, but he had 1,200 yards the season before. Last year, we were talking about Josh Palmer. Oh, look, he's been a great separator, but he just stuck behind, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Ladd McConkey. That didn't work out. I'm not going to read you guys the full list of wide receivers again that have busted in Buffalo ever since Stephon Diggs left, but take my word for it. It's a long one and it's a rough one. So DJ Moore, for me, the on-field signs, particularly this last season in an offense that was top 10 in scoring, that did make major moves with Ben Johnson, it's enough for me to have DJ Moore be someone I'm not constantly clicking, even at, admittedly, a fairly affordable round 5, round 6 price tag. If DJ Moore is washed, if I'm correct, not that he's just absurdly washed, but if he is past his prime, he's not going to be the clear-cut wide receiver 1 that people are expecting in Buffalo. Khalil Shakir is probably a pretty damn good bargain. I talked about draft strategy and not wanting to kind of be in a situation where you take elite quarterback and elite tight end, because that can leave one of your running back or wide receiver positions very thin. If you are in that situation, though, and you need a floor play, or even if you're just, deeper 14-team league, got a couple flexes out there, Khalil Shakir, man, he could just be the guy we're looking past a little bit. He's already been this kind of wide receiver 3-4 type, not doing anything downfield. What if he gets asked to do a little bit more in the offense now? Dalton Kincaid, that would be the other thing. What if he just plays a full-time role? Kincaid ends up being what Bills fans and fantasy managers were hoping he could be for so many years. Josh Allen's Travis Kelce. Wilfton needs fine now. Maybe, just maybe, your boy Ian, who told you all that Keon Coleman was going to be a great pick last year at that wide receiver 5 price tag. Maybe I was just a year early. I don't think I was, but I will say with Keon Coleman, people act like he has come into the NFL and been the worst wide receiver in the league. Hasn't been good. And you look at the chance the Bills had to get, Lab McConkey or some of these other players. I get it. 9.8 yards per target, 19.2 yards per catch in year one. He's got 8 touchdowns in 26 career games. That Ravens week 1 game was a fever dream. He was out there doing the thing. I know he caught the 1 tip touchdown, but he was causing some problems otherwise. He just needs to get his head screwed on straight, man. He was getting healthy scratch because of stuff that was happening off the field. So, look, I don't think Keon Coleman's going to turn around and be this god, but last year, the reason why I like Keon Coleman was I thought he could be Josh Allen's number 1 red zone threat and his number 1 deep ball threat. I thought he could be, we lived in a world where Gabe Davis for at least a year was like an upside wide receiver 3 for Josh Allen. I thought Keon Coleman could do that. He turned 23 in May. And if there was going to be an offense, if you want to use kind of DJ Moore argument to get the most out of someone like that, you would think it's one led by Josh Allen. So I'm going 4 out of 10 on the wash scale. I don't think DJ Moore is someone incapable of providing some goodness. It's been fun seeing some training camp highlights. I've caught those as well. I think ultimately the everybody eats mantra has returned such great real life results that I have a hard time believing they're going to completely upend that to force feed DJ Moore. So where I guess I've softened a little bit on DJ Moore, and it's just a boring take. I feel like he's probably going to finish as a lower end wide receiver 3 in fantasy football land. I'd be surprised if we're looking up and DJ Moore has like a Josh Palmer sort of 2026 season where it's just, completely unusable and everything like that. I think he'll be a little more boom bust than expected. Probably, finishing wide receiver 35, 36 at the end of the day. Does he have upside for more? Yes. Again, tough for me to be barking too hard about it if you guys do want to go ahead and invest in DJ Moore. But if I am a little bit more on the right side of things here, Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakur, and maybe, just maybe, a last round dart and Keon Coleman could go a long way. Wash candidate number 7, second and last quarterback here. We're talking Jets QB Geno Smith, guys. He will be turning, 36 in October. Just led the NFL in interceptions and sacks. Front man for the Raiders, pitiful last place ranked scoring offense. Why he might not be washed? Well, everything we say about Ashton Jeanty and just, looking at the Raiders last year objectively, who would have actually flourished in this system? His 1 wide receiver that was worth of the name Jacoby Myers got traded midseason, and Brock Bowers was hurt for half the year. So Chip Kelly got fired before November ended. The O-line sucked. I wouldn't say all those sacks were his fault. Trying to press a little bit too hard. Nobody to throw the football to. Turnovers and sacks are going to happen. That said, it wasn't like Geno's final games or year or 2 in Seattle were going great. There's a reason why they took a chance on Sam Darnold, man. I like the adjusted yards per attempt stat. It's just regular yards per attempt, but it also includes sacks, and then it weights touchdowns and interceptions as well. 2022, 7.7 for Geno. That's a really good number. Then went down to 7.3. Then went down to 7. Then went down to 5.9. ESPN's QBR rating, again, just kind of incorporating yards and kind of situations, touchdowns, interceptions, sacks, all in the one number. 63 to 60 to 50 to 34. When Geno was at his best and it had all the real life, ball knowing fans, not even fantasy analysts, like real life football people saying that this is a legit top 10 quarterback, it was so aesthetically pleasing, man. The deep balls to Tyler Lockett between 2 defenders, hitting Metcalf, deep downfield. Like, Geno is truly a gunslinger in his heart. And when these gunslingers work out, there's nothing better to watch in football. Doesn't it make sense, though, that sort of player, where you need that arm strength to beat the safety coming over the top, you need that quick decision-making to squeeze that ball into, the seam before the second safety comes over and gets ready to rip off your boy's head. We're getting older. Father time's undefeated. Geno's now taken 4 straight years of hits that he didn't have to previously deal with, man. Geno had a real nice end of his career. He's still a pretty average journeyman, respectfully. And I know Ricky, he can't, it's like Ricky Bobby saying something really mean stuff after all due respect. I can't just make up for it by saying respectfully. I'm being a little bit disrespectful. I get it, but it's Geno Smith. Is Frank Reich and the Jets going to get the most out of this dude? Vegas has this as the league's single worst scoring offense going to 2026. And just because Vegas says this in the preseason doesn't mean we need to assume that they're going to be right about everything. Definitely closer to 32 than 16. I'll tell you that. I like some of the pieces, but more and more, guys, we've liked Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. I get it. Something named Isaiah Williams is beating out Omar Cooper, apparently, for a starting job right now. Kenyon Sadiq's already hurt, and there's murmurs that Mason Taylor could be making his job, tougher to get on the field. So now the first-round pass catchers that we were kind of hyping up as a reason to feel better about the environment might not even really be on the field that much to start the year. I like the first-round tackles they've added. They should be good. The offensive line doesn't sound as good. Is the O-line okay? Yeah, I don't think they're horrible. Team RotoWire has them ranked 22nd. Want to go ahead over to our friends over at Establish the Run. They have them ranked 16th. That's better. Still not amazing. And I just can't get away from the fact that Frank freaking Reich is running this team in 2026. 2022, fired midseason from the Colts. 2023, fired midseason from the Panthers. 2024, did not have a coaching job in the professional or collegiate level. 2025, led the Stanford Cardinals scoring offense to a bottom 15 finish among more than 130 college football offenses. Could Geno dial it back to 2022? I guess. Could I have been a Division I linebacker if I worked harder? Probably not. But that's, hey. Too many ifs here. And there's too many ifs, guys, for a round 3-4 pick. I'm going washed, 8 out of 10 on this scale. But what we say about Aaron Rodgers, 9 out of 10 on the wash scale. But everyone's so cheap, I think that's priced in. I don't think that this is priced in for Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. They're going in the first 4 rounds for an offense that could finish 32nd. And we'd say, yeah, okay, we could have seen that coming. For an offense that could have Cade Klubnik under center in December. We do see occasionally players from bad offenses overcome them. Breece Hall did it in 2023. Garrett Wilson last year on a per game basis was a top 15 wide receiver. It's still pretty rare. Last 10 years, looking at bottom 10 scoring offenses, we've had 14 running backs post top 12 fantasy numbers on a per game basis. And there's been 12 wide receivers do that. I get it. Breece and Garrett aren't priced inside their top 12, and maybe they finish RB 13 and wide receiver 15. And that would be fine for where you drafted them. But I prefer to use my round 3, round 4 pick on someone who I believe in my heart of hearts has a chance of finishing inside a position's top 5. I mentioned those 14 running backs too. Last decade, we have never had a season where more than 2 bottom 10 offenses produced an RB1 and PPR points per game. So right now, looking at the group, man, there's 5 running backs in the top 15. And history tells us that only 2 of them are going to finish in the top 12. There's Bijan Robinson right now. There's Ashton Jeanty, Davante Adams, Breece Hall, Jeremiah Love. Those are kind of the 5 offenses that we should be pretty concerned about. Running backs are going really high anyway. Bijan's the only one I've made a big habit out of drafting. 3 more wash candidates to get to. First, though, guys, a quick word to our friends over at Splash Survivor. I don't know about you, but I do really enjoy mixing in some Survivor stuff into my football season, all right? The fantasy football stuff is great, but hey, having just one pick a week to try to get a team across the finish line is provocative, and I am into it. And we actually have a very special deal for you guys if you want to go on over to Splash Survivor. There's the RotoWire $100,000 guaranteed prize pool NFL Survivor. This is a traditional Survivor League, a $15 entry fee, again, to get your name in the pot to win potentially some of that $100,000 in prizes. We also have the RotoWire $50,000 touchdown Survivor. This one's really cool. It's player-based, okay? So we're actually doing like an anytime touchdown Survivor League, $25 entry fee for that one. Again, and get into the $50,000 streets. Hey, if 50K, 100K, that's not enough for you guys to get excited about it, well, how about beating your boy Ian and beating your boy Theo Greminger, also Team RotoWire. We will be competing, and I swear to God, guys, I am coming back for vengeance after freaking Amari DiMercado and those Cardinals had to ruin things for me last year. I say that, and I was very upset in that batshit crazy game last year where I lost my survivor pool. I will say that like Wednesday, though, I woke up and I was like, Ian, why did you use the Cardinals in a survivor pool in week 5? But I digress. Either way, guys, use promo code RotoWire at splashsports.com/RotoWire. You get a 50% deposit match and a 100% payout boost, helping you out even more here. So again, splashsports.com/RotoWire. You can check out the touchdown survivor or the regular NFL survivor. That's splashsports.com/RotoWire. Use promo code RotoWire and you'll get an extra 50% deposit match and 100% payout boost. Washed candidate number 8, Ravens tight end Mark Andrews, someone who has not been turning heads in training camp for the most part. There was some report a couple days ago saying, I think they counted one explosive play in team period from tight ends the entire time, and that was actually by Durham Smythe. Allegedly had a better day here recently, so I'm not trying to completely practice count. We're not there. We can't see every single pass that's thrown, but in Andrews' case, he turns 31 in September. He just posted career worst efficiency and counting numbers in 2025. Only had one freaking game with at least 50 receiving yards, so it was not pretty, but Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kohler, Lamar Jackson was injured. When he was injured, we had Cooper Rush. Then we had former Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Snoop Huntley under center. Wasn't great. Wasn't a great situation. Shouldn't have expected a career year for Mark Andrews. Now, again, it is concerning when we're starting to see the age begin with the number 3 and we have career worst numbers, but there is some underlying stuff we should like. Shout out fantasy points, their average separation score. Tight end 6 last season. ESPN's open score, again, a metric trying to measure separation on a per route basis, not even just per target. Tight end 1, the best separator in the NFL among tight ends last year, Mark Andrews. He can still move, guys. They ran that, he was a tush-push quarterback last year, and they ran a freaking crazy reverse out of it, I think against the Steelers. Andrews busted for a 30-yard touchdown. He joined Brock Bowers as the only tight ends in the National Football League last year to have a ball carrier speed of 20+ miles per hour. I feel like Next Gen's lying to us, but it's out there. It's real. I did not make it up. Scout's honor. We have seen tight ends over the years produce more 30+ fantasy performers. You look at running backs, only 2% of top 12 fantasy performers over the last decade were age 31 or more. Tight ends, 20%. That's 10 times more. How's that for your analytics? Tight ends age better than pretty much any position other than quarterback, at least in terms of fantasy land. We got rid of Likely. We got rid of Kohler. We don't have new guys in there that are really concerning us. People are buying into the Declan Doyle experience. He used to get Ben Johnson his coffee. Maybe he's now Ben Johnson. If you want to buy into Mark Andrews, you should be buying into Mark Andrews because we have Zay Flowers and we pretty much don't have anyone else to worry about. I believe in Rashad Bateman still. That's my cross to bear. Jacoby Lane, can't go a day without seeing him make another sick catch, which, guys, he was doing at USC. Everyone's like, oh my God, Jacoby Lane, look at these great catches. Put on some of his USC tape. That was all he did, and it was great. And I like Jacoby Lane coming out. I thought he was going to be a fun day 3 guy. Broke my brain when all of a sudden he went ahead of Elijah Surratt. And maybe they end up being fine, because that would be the other side of this, all right? Maybe Mark Andrews is washed. I don't think Durham Smythe is going to be someone to pick. That would be where we start getting more excited about Rashad Bateman and Jacoby Lane. Maybe Elijah Surratt. I know he's been a little bit banged up in training camp as well, but we're only 1 year removed from Lamar throwing for 4,000 yards and 40+ touchdowns, man. I think losing Todd Monken is a bigger deal than people have perhaps let on. But the fact this offense was still, I think, 16th in scoring last year, even with everything we saw there, pretty impressive to me, man. I've gone back and forth on Andrews. I don't love the words out of camp, but that separation stuff with the next-gen speed, that tells us he's moving around fine, man. I don't think he forgot how to play football. He caught 11 touchdowns in 2024. All the competition got wiped away. I would still take Isaiah Likely over Andrews if I was on the clock in round 11 and I need a late round tight end, but I do think Mark Andrews is one of several guys in there with Dallas Goedert, with Jake Ferguson, where, hey man, throw two darts at him if you want. And if we did see Andrews score double-digit touchdowns this year, albeit not with a ton of yards, can't be that shocked. So if Andrews is washed, I think you guys should be throwing a late-round dart more so at Bateman and Jacoby Lane. But I'm giving him a 5 out of 10 on the wash scale. I do think if we get MVP, amazing version of Lamar Jackson, which I know is still in there somewhere, Mark Andrews could be a big, big beneficiary there. Two more guys. Wash candidate number 9, Broncos RB JK Dobbins, the youngest man on the list, just 27 years of age right now, will be 28 in December. It's just the injury caveat, man. Since entering the NFL, he's played 15, 0, 8, 1, 13, and most recently 10 games. He's been great. Remember, he's been out there. Next gen stats, rushing yards over expected per carry in his 4 healthy seasons. 2nd, 4th, 16th, and most recently 4th. And even last year, man, I've seen like it happen in the Chargers here too. Like he gets these long runs for 60 yards. Like, oh, look how slow he looked at the end. In terms of his next gen ball carrier speed, he had a faster top speed than Chase Brown or Travis Etienne. And you know, some of that's all right. Did those guys get the same big hole that Dobbins got? But I don't know, man. A lot of touches for all 3 of those players. JK Dobbins, per science, was the fastest guy at his peak movement. And even if, okay, who wins a race, a 40-yard race right now? I'm sure Chase Brown does, and maybe Travis Etienne does as well. It tells me that Dobbins isn't freaking 10 times as slow as these dudes, which should be feeling good. Dominated touches last season. It's not Ramondre and Travion Henderson we're talking about here. First 10 weeks of last year, J.K. Dobbins outtouched R.J. Harvey 164 to 75. But let's say Dobbins is washed. Let's say he's just going to get hurt, which he already did get banged up in training camp. But he's back at practice, baby. We're so back. If Dobbins gets hurt again or he's just washed and he sucks, which I don't think is going to happen, but R.J. Harvey would become someone I don't think you need to force into every lineup, but could he be a low-end RB2? Yeah. He was an RB1 down the stretch last year. We could be overstating Jonah Coleman's involvement. I don't think we necessarily are. He's been getting good reviews in training camp. The little things Jonah Coleman brings to the table, his pass blocking, his size, his ability to catch the ball and operate in short yardage. It's problematic enough to think like, man, R.J. Harvey's probably not going to command all the early down work, and Jonah could also be a thorn in his side, on pass downs. That's the potential concern. That's why I haven't been drafting much R.J. Harvey. But again, had a video about a week ago talking about guys whose sharps are a little bit higher on than the squares, pros versus Joes, FFPC versus ESPN, that type of stuff. Sharps are drafting more R.J. Harvey, man. Full PPR scoring especially, you can see the path. This dude caught 47 passes in year 1. I've checked. It is legal for players to get better as they go into year 2. 82% of running backs who caught at least 50 passes in the season over the last, I should say, since 2020, went on to be a top 24 player in PPR points per game. That's not a bad floor ceiling combo for R.J. Harvey going around the RB3 range. I just really don't see the reason why I'm still not really drafting R.J. Harvey. I struggle to see the overall top 10 season, unfolding unless Dobbins and Jonah Coleman are out of the picture, but would hardly be the first time a fantasy nerd put too much stock in a day 3 rookie. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going 4 out of 10 on the wash scale for J.K. Dobbins. Is he more injury prone than the regular player? Obviously, but I don't think, Bijan Robinson is a 0 out of 10 and J.K. Dobbins is a 10 out of 10, maybe 3 out of 10 versus 8 out of 10. But I think we speak about, 2 binary sometimes. So that said, 4 out of 10 wash scale for Dobbins. I haven't made a habit of drafting any of these guys. Similar to Tampa Bay, man. And we talked about Kenneth Gainwell and his receiving upside as well. So maybe I'm just missing it on Harvey and Gainwell this year. But in every situation, I want it like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want it so if one guy gets injured, the other guy becomes an immediate, every week, arguable RB1 starter. I don't want it like Denver. I don't want it like Tampa Bay where we're not 1, but we're 2 injuries away from it coming to fruition. It could have come to fruition. Hell yeah. If you guys have been listening to me for a while, first of all, thank you. I appreciate it. But that Ramondre Stevenson year back in 2021 or 2, I think he was still dealing with Sony Michel, but I literally joked about why I was fading him. And I made the point where it's if Sony gets out and James White's out of the picture, and just 3 or 4 different things needed to happen. And like clockwork, every freaking one of them wound up happening, and Ramondre Stevenson had a great year. So it's football. Guys are going to get injured. Guys are going to get suspended. Balls are going to bounce the wrong way. And then all of a sudden, a dude's going to get benched. I get it. As things stand right now, I do struggle to see the best case upside scenario for RJ Harvey and Jonah Coleman, even if JK Dobbins is super washed. And in Dobbins' own right, he dominated the touches last year. Wasn't like we still loved him in Fantasyland. 5 yards per carry and a pretty good Broncos offense. He was RB27 in PPR points per game. So we've been chasing the Sean Payton RB Dragon for quite some time. Has not been working out in Denver. Would not be surprised if that remains the case in 2026. And finally, our number 10 wash candidate ahead of the 2026 season, Travis Kelce. He will be turning 37 in October. We did actually see a nice step back in the right direction in terms of yards after the catch. Last year, it was going just straight downhill, like a freaking roller coaster from Cedar Point. Shout out Ohio there. Kind of a lame reference, maybe. I don't know. Shout out Ohio. Anyway, Kelce got the yards after the catch going in the right direction this past season after been going down. But man, tight end 9 in PPR points per game at the half season from Rashee Rice. With Xavier Worthy missing 3 games, and then when he came back, they weren't willing to give him those short area sort of options. And even that tight end 9, it wasn't like I can't wait to start Travis Kelce this week, tight end 9. 1.1 PPR points per game difference between Travis Kelce at tight end 9 and Colston Loveland at tight end 16. Like Rashee Rice, though, I might have my qualms about drafting him, but then you look and you say, well, who did they add this offseason to make you think it's going to be any different? And you don't see too many people. So it was a 10-year low in targets for Kelce, but it was still triple-digit targets for Kelce. I think if you are late in your draft, you kind of missed the boat on tight end. Maybe you got a Dalton Kincaid. Maybe you got a Chigozie Okonkwo. And you just want someone that you can say, you know what, I'll get a 9 PPR point projection this week, and I can live with that. Travis Kelce is your guy. I'm going 9 out of 10 on the wash scale, though. I think I can find that archetype on the waiver wire, guys. I think Hunter Henry and Travis Kelce are pretty similar at this point in their career. Brenton Strange, maybe A.J. Barner, Dalton Schultz. Like Dalton Schultz could outscore Travis Kelce, or he could finish within 1 fantasy point per game. We would not be surprised in the least. So if I am going late round tight end fishing, give me someone who could actually surprise and finish in the top 6, man. I think Isaiah Likely and Dalton Kincaid are the prime late round tight ends where could we whiff? Sure. We're wrong all the time in fantasy football land, but it's a late round pick. And we can just get this archetype of, again, the more boring, the lower upside guy on the waiver wire. So Travis Kelce, 9 out of 10, the wash scale. He's kind of been washed as it is. I mean, we're not even doing like necessarily like he'll just get hurt type of situation here, because then obviously, we'll see the targets boost up for everyone. But Noah Gray, I guess, would be the dude hanging around. I still got him on a few dynasty teams. Not loving having him there. Jared Wiley. Noah Gray would become interesting. I don't think he'd become a weekly top 10 option. If I'm handcuffing the tight end, it's Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. Like, fantasy football is supposed to be somewhat fun. I'm not putting Noah Gray in a redraft team. You know what I'm saying? It'd be good for Kenneth Walker, and it'd be more good for Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy getting some underneath options. Maybe Jalen Royals. Maybe that's the deep guy we should be talking about. But I do have a rule. And as soon as I mention Jalen Royals, that means we've probably been talking too much. So that's the wrap up this edition of the show, guys. Really appreciate you guys supporting the new channel, new podcast, and all that goes with it. If you have been enjoying things, I invite you to, again, maybe leave a nice review, maybe leave a mean review. Hey, it's a free country after all. Like the video if you like the video. Hit that subscribe button helps out as well. And seriously, very excited. We'll be getting into week 1 stuff soon, where I will stop yelling at you guys about potentially subscribing to RotoWire, because then it's just going to be time to build those fantasy teams. But seriously, I would not be doing so if I did not believe we truly do have some great stuff to help you out in draft season. Live Draft Assistant, taking all of our Yahoo and ESPN, Sleeper as well. If you guys are drafting on those platforms, you can use our Live Draft Assistant, see my ranks, see the rest of our ranks, all of our strategy live as you are going through. Really is great stuff we can do in 2026. All of the ranks that I'm updating throughout the day. All my articles, which, yes, occasionally are going to be behind a paywall. Get all that and so much, much more. Code Ian20 with the RotoWire subscription. If you don't want any of that and you just want to support the show, hey, that'd be pretty cool too. Either way, code Ian20 RotoWire. Appreciate you guys. But that's going to do it for me, guys. Have a great rest of the weekend. I believe this one is going up on Sunday, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the preseason action. Gonna be back Monday after I have bled from my eyeballs trying to watch all the rest of this preseason action, getting the takeaways with my top post week 1 preseason ranking takeaways and help get you guys mind rights for true draft season. So that's to do it for me, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, take care, everybody.